Hello, my name is Nadine Maher, and I'm a special education teacher and board certified behavior analyst based in New York City. I work with families of children with learning and developmental challenges as a parent coach and consultant at the office of Dr. David Salzberg. Today, I will be sharing with you some strategies for using visuals to support your children and students. Visual strategies are really anything we can see with our eyes. So, gestures like pointing, objects that we show children, that can be a visual, any written words or pictures. Those are all examples of visual strategies. Visuals are effective because we know that most children and people are visual learners, meaning they learn from the information that they see in their environment. And when you show a child a picture, the language that you're using makes more sense. So visuals help children understand what you're talking about. Here are two main reasons why visual strategies can be very effective. They provide environmental structure and predictability. So it helps children understand what's coming next, such as when you use a visual schedule, which is one tool that we'll talk about. It helps children feel organized and know what's happening and be able to predict what's coming next. It also helps with the comprehension of language. So, children who have developmental delays and language delays, visual strategies can be very effective in helping them understand what is being said. Think about how you use visuals in your everyday life, even as adults. So, a stop sign on the road is a visual strategy that tells you when to stop. All of us have seen visuals around washing hands in public bathrooms, and even writing notes on a post it or making a list for yourself before you go to the grocery store. Those are all ways that you use visual strategies to help you remember, to help you organize yourself, and to help you follow instructions and follow rules. So, we're going to learn about how to turn your words into pictures. So, for example, if you have a rule with your child that you want them to hold your hand while crossing the street, one way to be effective with this is to use a visual to show them what that means. So, you can take a picture of you and your child holding hands, or you can take a picture off Google Images of hand holding to show your child the rule that's expected of them. Another way to use a visual strategy is to teach children contingencies. When you have your chicken nuggets, then you can have your ice cream. This is something we all say to children all the time. Using a visual to show, first chicken nuggets, then ice cream, or I like to say when you finish your chicken nuggets, then you can have ice cream. This is one example of a way to use a visual to show your child what you mean. So today we'll be going over 5 tools for using visuals. The first one is using visuals to label items and events. The second one is talking about the when, then contingency. Number 3 is how to use visual schedules. Number 4 will be using choice boards. And number 5 is using a timer. Now, a timer is really an auditory signal because we hear it with our ears, but it can also be visual if um, it's a timer with numbers on it. But it's a very important strategy to use, so I wanted to put it in here as well. So, tool number 1 is using visuals to label items. So, for example, you can use visuals like this small plastic bear that's Velcroed onto the bin in a classroom. This is a way to show children where the bears go. So, when you say, please clean up all the bears, it makes more sense to children in a classroom of where these bears should go if you use a visual to show them. So, you can label items by using the actual object, or you can use pictures like the picture on the right that shows us how to label drawers. So, for example, the shakers go in the first drawer, the fire trucks go in the second drawer, and the balls go in the third drawer. Again, this helps children organize their environment and understand your language when you ask them to clean up all the balls and put them in the bin. They know exactly where they would go. This is one way to help that. At home, you can label your child's drawers. So if you tell your child to go pick out some socks, they know exactly where to go because there's a picture of socks on the outside of the sock drawer. Same with underwear or shorts or t-shirts. These are visual ways you can use visual strategies in your home environment. Another way to use visuals is to label events. For example, if your child doesn't enjoy putting on sunscreen or they have a hard time putting on their floaties before going swimming, this is one way to use visuals so that you can show your child the expectation. First, we're going to put on sunscreen, then we put on our floaties, then you can go swim. And having this visual as you're talking to your child can help them to prepare for this event, but also to help with their behavior challenges in the moment when they all they want to do is go jump in the pool. So really slowing down and using a visual and pointing to each picture to show them exactly what is expected of them before swimming can happen. Here's another example. So, for children who have a hard time putting on a jacket or their hat before going to the park, this is one way you can use visuals. So, these visuals can be printed off of Google Images, or you can take pictures with your phone or a camera and print them out for your child to show them the rules before going to the park. First, we'll put on our jacket and point to the picture, then hat, then go to the park. This way, they understand what's expected before they can go play. Tool number two is what I like to call the when then contingency. A lot of people use first then, which is fine too. So, showing children what has to happen first before the second thing comes along. This helps with behavior management around eating, around following instructions. For example, when you finish your bath, then you can go play downstairs. Or when you finish your sandwich, then you can have some goldfish or dessert. This way, children see the picture and understand what's coming first and what's coming next. This is helpful as well when you're on the street and you have a rule about holding hands. So, when you hold my hand and we get to the park safely, then you can go play. So, again, this is not a magical tool that will just help your child comply the first time. It's important to be very consistent when you're using visuals and to point to the picture so that your child understands your language. This is another example. During difficult transitions, maybe your child is having a hard time going to the doctor's office, or a student in your classroom is having a hard time going back to the classroom. Showing them what's happening first and what's happening next can be helpful. So, first, we're going to play in the sensory gym, then, we're going back to the classroom, and really showing them what's happening first and next. Tool number three is using visual schedules. And so these are very common in classrooms. Most preschool classrooms will have a visual schedule up on the wall. And this is a great tool that can be used at home as well. So oftentimes you'll see a morning schedule in a classroom that might say, for example, this one has gym time, then meeting time, then snack time, and then centers. And there's other pictures as well. And the arrow on the bottom kind of helps children understand what's happening now, and the arrow moves throughout the morning. This is something you can use at home for your morning routine. So you can have a picture, and a visual schedule can either be horizontal from left to right, or it can be vertical, up to down. And you can show your child, first, we're going to put on our clothes, then eat breakfast, then brush teeth, then you can have TV time, or then we're going out to the park. So that way you're showing your child the events of the day and help them structure their day. This is helpful for community outings if, for example, there are many events happening that day. And for very young children, it's helpful to just have 3 or 4 pictures at a time. You don't have to have 10 pictures that show the entire day. You can break it up into small pieces of the day. Visuals can be great for toilet training. So, for children to understand the different steps that are involved in toilet training, or even, here's another example, but even hand washing. So, this is a visual that's taped to the wall. It's helpful to laminate your visuals so that they stay dry and not get wet in the bathroom. You don't have to, but this is a way to preserve them and not have to print them out all the time. So you can print these pictures, take it to Staples, and they can laminate for you. You can ask your classroom teachers to help with laminating. I'm sure they'd be willing to help create a visual for you to send home in your child's backpack. So these are the different steps of hand washing. And so it can help a child understand what comes first and then next and then next. And the adult behind the child can just point to the visual and help the child become more independent in the hand washing routine. Another way to use visuals, this is tool number 4, is to use it as a choice board. This is an example of a child who might have different choices during outdoor play in a classroom or during an OT session. So you can have a statement at the top that says, I want, and then a piece of Velcro, and your child can choose the activity and take off the picture and put it next to I want. So, for example, if they want to jump on the trampoline, they can point to trampoline, take the picture off, and put it next to I want. This is one way to help structure activities for your child, but you can also use choice boards for meal times. So you can have the visuals of the choices for meals or snacks in your home. If you have two different choices, if your child is allowed to have chicken nuggets or pizza that day, you can put two pictures, one of chicken nuggets, one of pizza. Hold this up and ask your child, what do you want for lunch? And have them point or have them say pizza when they see the picture. It helps them understand your language, and it helps support language development. So this might be an example of that choice board for meal times or snack times. Here's another example. These are all just examples I've seen in classrooms or I've seen online, and just to give you some examples, but of course you can modify them. For example, 9 choices might be too much for a young child who's 2 or 3 years old. We might want to just stick to 2 or 3 choices in that moment. Older children or children with a lot more language might be able to handle 6 or 9 choices. So that's really up to you. You can always consult a speech therapist or your child's teacher if you're wondering how many visuals you should have on one board. And the last tool we'll talk about is number 5, timers, using timers, which can be very helpful during open-ended activities. By open-ended, I mean activities that don't have an ending. So the park, sometimes iPad time can have a very unclear ending. If a child is watching YouTube or playing games on their iPad, bath time is very open ended. So, using a timer to tell your child when this activity is ending can be helpful. It can be helpful to let your child choose the amount of time. So building a choice into it. Bath time is almost finished. Would you like, 2 more minutes or 3 more minutes? And allow your child to choose. That can be very powerful. Let your child push the buttons on the timer if they enjoy that. And you should always put the timer away, somewhere where your child can't access it. You can always use the timer on your phone, or if you have a kitchen timer, any timer really will work. I think digital timers are helpful because children like to see numbers and they like to see the time moving. And here are some general tips just to wrap up for making visuals. So, if children don't yet understand 2-dimensional pictures, you can use objects. So, instead of having a picture of the ball or the small plastic bears on the bin, you can, like in the picture, you can take the actual object and tape it or velcro it to the bin. That can be helpful for very young children if they're 2 years old or 3 years old or have very limited language. For older children who are learning to read, you can write the word under the picture. Of course, it's always important to expose children to print. However, for a 2-year-old, the print won't make much sense until they're a little bit older. Using generic pictures to represent an event. So, for example, if you want one picture to represent going out in the community, you don't have to take a picture of all the different places you go. You can just have a picture that has your child standing at the elevator or your child standing outside your building, and that can represent we're going out. So, for example, if you have a visual schedule in the morning and it shows first we're going to have breakfast, then brush teeth, then get dressed, then play, and then go outside, you can just have a picture of going outside. You don't have to have a picture of every single place you're going to. You can also take a blank sheet of paper and laminate it and cut it into squares. And with a dry erase marker, you can draw your own visuals. So you can have that handy in your bag if you need to make a visual for your child. For example, if you're out in the community and your child's having a hard time um, leaving the park, you can pull out your visuals and make a quick sketch of first park, then we're going home to play their favorite game. So they can see first we're going to the park, then we're going back home. Or first we're going to the supermarket, then we can go buy ice cream. That way they see when it's coming. And so you don't, if you're not prepared with pictures, you can always make the visuals yourself. And the final words I just want to end with are that visual tools, just like all behavior strategies, are not magic. They won't fix every problem, but they are definitely a very important prevention strategy. So, helping children understand what you're saying and helping their day be a little bit more predictable and structured by using visuals can really reduce problem behavior. And visuals are a support for language. They are not a replacement for language. So the goal here is not to have your child use the visuals to communicate, but really so that you can use the visuals while you're communicating verbally to your child. Consistency will be the most important part to make sure that this strategy can be effective for your child. So using these strategies over and over again will help your child understand and teach them how they're used, and help with those moments when they're having a challenging time. Here are some free resources for visuals. So on google.com, you can find a lot of great pictures. If you just type in what you're looking for, you can type in, grown up holding child's hand, and you can get a clear picture of hand holding. Graphicsfactory.com and do2learn.com are two other websites where you can find visual supports. There's also a lot of books that may have visuals that you could photocopy, such as this one in the picture, but Google Images really has a lot of pictures that you can use. Or, like I mentioned, you can take pictures of your child engaging in the different activities. Young children definitely like to see themselves in pictures, so that can be very fun for your child. Thank you very much. Here's my email. If anybody has any questions or would like to reach out, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.